Welcome to this Arnold Clifford tutorial for modern daily knitting on dividing for sleeves and body for the Simple Swoncho. This tutorial is part of a series to accompany the patterns in MDK Field Guide number 18, Beginnings. All of the patterns in this field guide have been designed by the wonderful Karida Collins, and this is the Simple Swoncho that we're working on today. The Simple Swoncho is worked from the neck downwards, and this is a great technique working top down. It leaves minimal finishing and most of the work is just knitting round and round, which makes it very straightforward if you're a newer knitter. You can also slip your stitches onto waste yarn and try on your sweater as you go and get a real feel for how it's going to hang from your shoulders, which is obviously very difficult to do with any other construction. So top down is quite a handy trick. Here I'm working on a mini version of the pattern so that it's easier for you to see what's going on, so none of the stitch counts or anything are as they are in the actual pattern, but the processes are going to be exactly the same. When we're working on the Swoncho, obviously it's this way up with the neck pointing downwards, so I just want to take you round the round and show you where the various parts of the Swoncho are. So I'm using this Cocoanut's locking stitch marker to mark the end of the round or beginning of the round, and then the first portion of stitches is going to be my sleeve. We then have our raglan cable panels. We've then got a body section followed by another raglan, a sleeve, a raglan, and the second body section, with the round finishing off with the final section of raglan stitches which has been worked as a cable. I'm now going to show you just how straightforward it is to divide off the body and sleeves of this design. And our first instruction is to knit across the sleeve stitches. So we are literally just going to knit our way along until we get to the marker at the beginning of the raglan. These are the last few stitches before that raglan. And now that we've worked across those sleeve stitches, we're going to slip them to waste yarn. I'm also going to take out the raglan marker here because otherwise it's just going to fall off my needles. I've threaded some smooth mercerized cotton onto my tapestry needle, and I'm going to use that for my waste yarn because it won't stick to the stitches at all. And all we need to do is to slip the stitches from the end of the knitting needle onto the tapestry needle. And onto the waste yarn. Okay, so I've got the two ends of my cotton yarn. Take the tapestry needle off, and I'm just going to loosely tie the two ends of that waste yarn in a knot. And there are my sleeve stitches sitting patiently ready for me to work on them. We're now going to work across the cable panel. When we start working here, we just need to be ever so slightly careful not to over tighten the yarn because it's attached to this stitch here, which of course is no longer on a needle tip, so there's nothing to stop you from pulling that stitch right through and making it too tight. So just be a little bit aware of that. Bring the yarn to the front because the first of those is a pearl. There we go. And then work across the cable panel as you've been doing throughout the previous section. Obviously this is a mini version, this is not the same cable panel as you have in the full size. We're now going to work across the body as normal. We're coming to the end of the body stitches. Slip the marker and we now work the raglan as normal again in the cable panel. Slip the marker, and now the next section of stitches again are going to be the sleeve, and we're just going to knit across them before putting them on waste yarn, exactly as we did at the beginning of the round. I've completed knitting the sleeve, and I'm going to take out that marker for the beginning of the cable panel, and now I'm going to do as I did before and just slip all of those sleeve stitches onto my waste yarn again. This is a separate length of waste yarn. And the last one. Going to keep this marker at this end in. If it falls off, we'll remember to put it on again. And once more, just going to loosely tie the ends of the waste yarn together so that the stitches don't come off. So keeping this marker in place, we're now going to work across the cable panel, and again the yarn is attached to this stitch here which doesn't have a needle in it, so just watch that you don't over tighten it. It's a little bit there, but I think it'll be okay once the slack from in the stitch is all evened out. It'll be fine. And now to complete the round, we're going to knit across the body stitches and work the final cable panel. We've come to the end of the round. Our stitch markers there, not caught by anything, and it's clear that we've got our first sleeve on waste yarn and our second sleeve on waste yarn, and then our front and back body pieces are not joined together at the sides at the moment. So you may well be looking at this a little bit strangely, thinking, well, how's that going to work? All we need to do now is work around in pattern, just taking the yarn across those gaps and giving them a good snug as we go, and that's going to join it into the round, and I'm going to show you how to do that. In order to join into the round, we're going to go from this cable panel at the end of the round straight across to the next cable panel, and for the remainder of the body the two cable panels will be adjacent to each other. And now we're going to knit across the body stitches. If we look back at that start of the round, it is now joined just by a single strand of yarn there, and once we've done a few more rounds on top of it, it'll be perfectly smoothly like a tube at the side of your body as you'll want it. I've come to the end of the body section and I've worked the next cable panel, and here are my sleeve stitches on waste yarn, so we're just going to basically pinch them out of the way, and then we're going to slip the marker from the beginning of that cable panel, and we're going to work straight across this next cable panel. So at the moment it's not joined, there are the sleeve stitches, and all we're going to do is just work straight across that gap, not leaving any looseness in there. Maybe once you've worked the second stitch you can give it a bit of a tug to make sure it's nice and snug. It's always better to do that on the second one, it just holds it better than if you pull it on the first one. Work across the cable panel, and now we're going to work across the last part of the body, and then we will be completely joined in the round. We're now back at the start of the round again, and you can see that we've got our sleeves divided off, but now the body is joined at the kind of underarm area, although on the Simple Swoncho the underarm area is more like the elbow area, but it's now joined safely into the round now, and all I have to do is work round and complete the body before picking up for the sleeves, which I'll show you briefly in a moment. I've cast off the body of my mini cropped Simple Swoncho, and all that remains now is to show you how to work the sleeves. I'm going to be using some double pointed needles, but you could equally use a circular needle with the magic loop method, or you could use a short circular, depending on how many stitches you've got for your sleeves. Any kind of needles is fine, and the process of setting it up is going to be very similar. Our first task is to return our stitches to needles ready to work, and this is a really common situation when you've had stitches on waste yarn. Sometimes the stitch at the very end there kind of pokes back through and you kind of lose the loop of stitch that you're meant to be picking up. So all you need to do is just give it a good tug up with the waste yarn, and that'll pull the loop of yarn back through, and you'll be able to then slip your needle into the correct loop. So you're looking for your needle to follow the path of the waste yarn, and you can actually leave the waste yarn in while you do this, which just means that you're super reassured you're not going to drop anything. So you're going to work along, picking the stitches back up onto your needles. Just picking up the last two stitches, and you can see what I mean here. When you end up with the final row of stitch having kind of popped back through, you just need to give your waste yarn a good tug, and you should be able to get those loops that you need to be picking up to pop back onto the right side of the stitch. It's almost like they've tried to drop, but they can't drop because the waste yarn is there. So I'm just going to pull it back through, and then we've got all of our stitches picked up. So you can go around now and just double check that you've got all of your stitches safely on your needles, and once you're satisfied that that's the case, you can remove the waste yarn. So you untie that loose knot that you made, and once the knot is untied, all you need to do is pull firmly on the end and the waste yarn will come out. Here are our stitches on the needles, and the instructions tell us to start at the beginning of the center underarm, and that's this kind of gappy point here where the two cable panels on the body were meeting. Don't worry about the fact there's a bit of a gap here, because you're going to leave a tail of yarn now when we join in the yarn to work around here, and you can use that at the end to just tidy up any little gap you might get there, but it will be fine. So all we need to do now is knit across these stitches, and as I said, we're going to leave a tail sufficient to tidy up anything that might need tidying at the end. Keep hold of that tail so it doesn't get pulled loose. There we go. And now we're just going to knit the round. And as I said, if you're on a magic loop or short circular, it's worked in exactly the same way. You just work all the stitches. All of the stitches that were on the waste yarn are now going to be knitted. We've finished knitting across the stitches from the waste yarn. You can see they're there, and we've got the tail there to weave in any gap later. And now, in order to join it, we're literally just going to work across that gap as we did when we joined the two sides of the body together. I'm not placing a beginning of the round marker because the beginning of the round is going to be at the join between these two needles, and so I'm going to imagine the beginning of the round marker there. So the yarn's attached to this needle. I'm just going to bring it right up and work that first stitch, holding my working yarn quite nice and firmly, and I'm now working in rib. I've now completed my first round in rib and it's now joined at that underarm point, and all I need to do now is to continue to work the sleeve in rib until it's the desired length and cast off. Mini Swoncho now has a mini sleeve, and if you look here at the underarm you can see we have got a bit of a hole, and that's perfectly normal, don't worry about it at all. This is our tail and we're just going to gently snug up to tighten up that first stitch there, and then what we're going to do is on the wrong side we're going to skim the yarn all the way around the outside of that hole and pull it tight, and it'll just cinch it all shut and tidy it up. I've threaded my tail onto the tapestry needle and I'm just checking that that first stitch from the round there is nice and tidy, which it is, and I'm now, as I say, just going to run around the edges of the hole, just going under various strands of yarn all around that edge. Okay, I've gone all around the edge of the hole, and if I now give this a little tug, you see it just tightens it all neatly up. There's nothing more complicated than that. Just for good luck I'm going to go around again, maybe picking up different strands of yarn from last time, and I'm actually not going under a whole strand here, I'm kind of skimming through the middle of the plies of this wool. There we go, and if we look at that on the outside you'll see that it's now all sorted, and that's going to be under your arm anyway, nobody's going to see it. I do hope that's given you a big boost of confidence to divide the body and sleeves in your Simple Swoncho. It's a pretty straightforward method and it's going to allow you to make this gorgeous garment. We have absolutely heaps more hints and tips for your knitting over on our website. If you click up the link up here at the top, you'll be able to visit it and explore to your heart's content. You can also subscribe to our YouTube channel so you're sure not to miss out on our next video tutorial, and you can do that by clicking the button down here. Thanks ever so much for watching. Bye bye.